Hello! Today we're going to go over exercise for dogs. So I did a video in the past about this, but this one's going to be a little bit more formal, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of give like categories, 4 different categories to help you better understand knowing how much exercise your dog actually needs. So I have my notes, so I will try not to get too much off task. So for the first category is going to be the breed. What breed of dog do you have? This makes a huge difference on how much exercise you can anticipate the dog needing. So if you have a hound, hounds are bred to sniff out animals for miles and miles and miles and miles. So if you have a dog that's a hound, be prepared to go miles and miles and miles because they have crazy long endurance. So you're going to have a dog that needs to go on very long walks, not necessarily sprinting the full time, but you know, a good pace for several miles. And if you have a border collie, be prepared to do lots of throwing the ball and running, and lots of running and running. And if you have a dog more like a Shih Tzu or a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, don't expect too much exercise going on. They might run around, play with a toy some, especially if they're younger, but overall, a lot calmer dog and a dog that doesn't need as much work. So the big difference between those types of dogs and your labs and shepherds and hounds and Australian shepherds and border collies is the dogs I just named there. A lot of them are still being bred as working dogs. So you can still find border collies and huskies and Australian shepherds and German shepherds and Malinois. They're still being bred as working dogs to this day, where your Cavalier King Charles Spaniel and your Shih Tzus and your Malteses and some of the Spaniels, they aren't being bred to work. They're no longer needed to catch rats. So a lot of times, I believe the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel is actually a duplicated dog compared to the actual working dog they had. So you have like, there's a disconnection of lines of they're no longer been bred for working, so therefore their mindset and their energy is no longer being a desire to have a high energy dog that can work longer hours. That's no longer a thing for them. They're more of like toy dogs. They want to sit on your lap and snuggle. They're more of just companions that just want to relax. But when you have these other dogs that were bred for protection or to go hunting or herding sheep, they want to work. They were bred to work, especially when you have huskies. They were bred to pull and run and stay out in the cold temperatures. You can't have a lazy husky leading your sled. That would not make for a good work dog, so therefore you wouldn't breed that one anymore. You would breed the ones that work the longest, work the hardest, and these are the ones that these bloodlines end up in the dogs that you have in your homes. And so you're not working your dog like they're originally bred to, so now they have all this pent up energy. So you have to get rid of that. Another thing to factor is their age. How old is your dog? So my Australian Shepherd that's a year old needs more exercise than my 6-year-old dog. So while my dog that's now 6, when she was a year old, she would definitely need more exercise than my Australian Shepherd that was a year old. They're different sizes. They're different breeds. My Australian Shepherd definitely wears out a lot more than my other dog who's behind me. She's now sleeping. Cassie. Cat. Oh, there we go. She is a German Shepherd boxer. I could take her on a several mile run in the morning, and by the evening she'd be pumped and ready to go, and I'd have to play like fetch with like another 20 minutes with her. She is just crazy. She keeps up with my Australian Shepherd that's a year old at this point. So she is a very high energy dog, and she's a larger dog, so she needs to go double the amount of exercise as a smaller dog. So that's another thing to consider, is how big is your dog? A third thing to consider is the health of your dog. So does your dog have arthritis? Does it have trouble breathing? Does it have allergies? that affect its ability to exercise. Do you have a dog that has more of a squashed in nose and face? That can affect their breathing. So that's all things to take in consideration when it comes to exercise. When you have a dog that has arthritis or is prone to hip dysplasia or problems with the knees, you want to take those into precaution on what kind of exercises you do and for how long, and depending even on the temperature, or if there's certain allergies outside during a time of year, that can affect the when and how much you exercise your dog. And the last one to heavily consider when comparing how long you should exercise your dog is your dog's behavior. So exercise can change your dog's behavior 100% around. Like, you can make it from the worst dog you ever owned to taking it out and letting it run for 30 minutes, and now it's the best dog you've ever owned. I'm not joking. Like, seriously, that's how effective exercise is against behavior. I'm going to go ahead and put in a clip of Cassie. So Cassie is this dog here. She suffers from I wouldn't say super severe, but it's pretty high up there anxiety. So she doesn't really have a ton of separation anxiety. Like, she doesn't get destructive over that, but she does get anxiety, and she cries and barks a lot when she is feeling very stressed out. So anytime I take her in the car, when if the car's not moving at a highway pace, then she is stressing out. I don't know if it's because she's nervous about where we're going or she's excited about where she's going. Either way, it results in anxiety, and she'll sit there and she'll just cry. So I took a video of this morning. I took the dogs out, and so I'm going to put in the video here so you can see how she reacts when her anxiety is high. Alright, now that you've seen that video of her crying, you can see she's just crying. It actually wasn't as bad as it sometimes gets, but it gives you a general idea of the type of personality she has. So I'm going to go ahead and put in another video, and this was after about 25 minutes of her running around and playing, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in there so you can compare the difference. Alright, so that was 25 minutes of exercise that compares, you can see the change in behavior. She's 100% a different dog than from being anxious, and she didn't want to sit still, and she's crying, and she's so full of anxiety, whether she's excited or nervous, I'm not really sure. But it's a completely different dog from the second video. She's calm, she's panting because she was running around and she's catching her breath, but she's not crying. And like, she gets to the point where she'll start like shaking, she's so anxious. So it's completely different dog. Just for it's same day, 25 minutes apart. That's crazy. That's how much exercise can change your dog's behavior. It really can be that simple. So before you go out and you spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on a trainer, look into how much exercise you're giving your dog. If you're only exercising your dog twice a week for like 30 minutes outside, and it's like half the time you're sitting there on your phone and the dog's just sitting there looking at you waiting for something to do, and you have maybe like a border collie or Australian Shepherd or Boxer, Lab, Golden Retriever, Husky, any sort of hound, any kind of bully breed, they're all pretty high. I would consider them more of a high energy breed. There are individuals that aren't, But overall, I consider all of those more of a high energy breed that are pretty common, at least for this area, that I see a lot. Those dogs are going to need, maybe depending on the age and the health, they're all things to consider, and each individual, they might need anywhere from 30 minutes of high energy, blood pumping, running around work to maybe an hour and a half, depending on your dog, like a day, for maybe 5 days a week. You might have a couple days where realistically you might not be able to go out 7 days a week for an hour, but maybe even just like having 30 minutes of your dog being able to run and run and run might be better for fitting your schedule. You can do walks. Walks are great. The only thing about walks is you obviously, unless you're running full speed, you can't keep up with the dog running at the speed they prefer. So you're going to have to do, even though it's slower paced, you're going to have to do maybe double the miles. So if your dog can run for 30 minutes, they probably just ran like 2 or 3 miles. And when you walk, for 30 minutes, you're probably gonna get closer to a mile. So you might need to do an hour 15 minutes of walking just to burn that same level of energy off as they would for running around for like 25 to 30 minutes. Another great one is I always try to switch up exercises to keep dogs entertained. If you go out and put them in the same backyard and you expect them to exercise themselves, they're not really going to do that. They want you to come play with them. They want interaction, or if they have a buddy, they're not going to, unless there's like a squirrel on the other side of the fence to keep them busy all the time, chances are you're going to need to entertain your dog yourself. So this is physically and mentally. So you might go to new places for new scents, or new sites, just a different area or different toys. You can go swimming, you can do agility, you can set up agility in your backyard with whatever you have in your backyard. Literally, you can go ahead and put, what I've done is you can put up just like 2 chairs and then a broom across it, and that could be your little jump for agility. You can put 2 tables up and put a blanket over top to make like a makeshift tunnel. These are all things I've done. It doesn't have to be fancy. It really doesn't. The dog doesn't care. Just get out, do different things. Or you can do food puzzles inside to help with the brain. Really anything. Just switch it up to keep your dog, or else they're going to get bored. And bored dogs turn very destructive. I've gone into houses where the dogs ripped up their flooring, and it wasn't just carpet. It was like the wood and the tile on the floor they ripped up. They chewed their counters. They shredded about every pillow they had. They can't keep anything in the house. The dog can't be out of its crate unless they're right there with it, because it'll literally destroy their house. And a lot of times this can all be fixed with just exercise. So like I said, before you go and spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on a trainer, really revamp your dog's exercise schedule. A tired dog is a good dog, 100%, all the time. So unless there are certain instances where you might need a trainer, but before you reach that point, try exercise. Like, really, if you have a dog that's getting into your garbage, that's counter surfing, that's hyperactive and jumping up and biting and licking at your face, a dog that you can't even get to sit for 2 seconds because it's so crazy, that dog needs to go out and burn off that energy before you can even think about training. Like, if you have a dog that just can't even breathe, relax, then you can't train that dog. The dog has become untrainable because it's just so full of energy, it can't sit there and think. It needs to go off and do some sort of exercise, so when it comes back in, it's relaxed, it's able to think, it cleared its mind. If not, it's just, a lot of times these dogs are untrainable when you have too much energy. So that comes into signs of your dog needing exercise. Like I went over, destructiveness, hyperactivity, weight gain. Weight gain's a huge thing. if your dog is about a year old and is overweight, you need to rethink that dog schedule. Last sign, this is a good one because I go through this, the sign that your dog needs exercise is excessive barking or crying. So with Cassie, with her anxiety, when I don't get her out enough, which is all on me, then she starts crying at everything in the house, and she starts barking at nothing, or every little sound she hears she wants to bark. So that's when I know I haven't been doing a good job at keeping up with her exercise. So yeah, so those are the things to consider of how much exercise your dog needs. Probably more than you think. So whatever you're giving it now, probably like 3 or 4 times that amount of exercise if you're having major behavioral problems. Really, before you go and spend lots of money on a trainer, just up your dog's exercise and reevaluate its behavior after that. It can make a world of a difference just going out and exercising your dog. So, like I said, it was things to consider is breed, age, health, and behavior. Once you look at all those things, you can better understand how much exercise your dog needs. Google your dog's breed if you don't know what your dog's breed is. You can always take tests to help you better understand. Or if you take a guess, if you're like, well, it looks pretty hound-like and it kind of acts like a hound, like go ahead and look up how much exercise certain breeds of hounds need. And it's a lot. Or labs or huskies. Really, there's so many dog breeds that are super high energy that are in everyone's homes, and they're just becoming destructive and hard to live with because of how destructive they are. And this is why a lot of times dogs get rehomed, is because they're eating their house away, literally eating the house. Go out and exercise your dog, and it'll make a huge difference. And from there, you'll actually know what behavioral problems you actually need to address with maybe a trainer then. So yeah, that's it. Bye.